Hi. So today we're going to practice and talk about making a story. Now, making a story and telling a story is not very easy if you want to make it a good story, an interesting story. So let's go over some different skills that you need to use or that you can use when you're telling a story. The first thing to remember is that everything that you say to other people is in some way a story. Now, I don't mean one sentence, but if I want to tell somebody about what happened to me yesterday, it's a kind of story. If I want to explain something to somebody so that they understand, it's a kind of story. So the skills that you use to tell a story are important in every part of speaking English well. So always keep in your mind, what is your purpose? If your purpose in explaining something is to make someone understand, think about, how can I use simple words? How can I speak so that they understand? How can I explain it by using examples that they know, other things they understand, to understand what I'm trying to explain? If your purpose is to tell a longer story about something that happened to you, then you need to think about, how do I make it interesting? What is the point of the story? Why am I telling this story? Is there something I learned? Is there some goal I reached? So also, when you're telling this kind of story, think about who's listening, okay? One of the things that you can do at the beginning of a personal story, when you're sharing your own experience about something, is to use a hook at the beginning to make it sound more interesting. A hook is, well, the basic meaning of a hook is something that's shaped like this, that can grab something. Usually you use a hook to catch a fish's mouth. So think about a hook and the audience being the fish, in a way. You want to pull them in. You want to make them focus on you, okay? So when you're telling the story, make sure you have a clear direction. If you just say, well, I did this thing, and 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 these events, these things that happen, aren't really connected, or they don't lead to something important at the end, people will feel confused, they will feel sad, they will feel bored, okay? So always think about, how does the audience are the people listening to you, how does the audience feel? Why should the audience care? Okay? So you can use a hook that might be an introduction. And you might use an example and an introduction. So let's say, for example, well, everybody knows what it means to live on the edge. That basically means you're in a dangerous situation where you could die. But I never really knew the meaning until I went to India. So now the audience thinks, oh wow, he had an experience where he almost died. That's pretty interesting. So I want to know the feeling of what it feels like to almost die. So you might be attracted to the person telling the story. If you just say, last year I went to India, and begin saying what happened, maybe not as interesting. Here's another hook. You might ask a question. So you could say something like, who here has a fear? Who here is afraid of something? And most people are afraid of something. Maybe you could ask these people, well, what are your fears? Ask for a few examples. And then use that to then allow people to remember the feeling of their fear when you tell them a story which shows your fear, or maybe how you overcame your fear. And then they can feel like they were part of the story. Maybe they can use what you did to overcome your fear for their fear. So maybe a story can be useful. And if you watch many TED Talks, so videos on the internet, I will post them below, the internet address, you can see that. They use something at the beginning to attract your attention. So it's not very difficult. Sometimes it's just an introduction, something simple like, I am going to tell you the craziest thing that ever happened to me. Or I want to tell you the craziest thing that ever happened to me. That's enough. Oh, a crazy thing happened to you? That sounds interesting. Let's hear. So sometimes it doesn't have to be a question. Sometimes it doesn't have to be an expression or an example. Okay? So now remember, when you're telling the story, go in order, usually, so people can follow you. If you jump around, oh, by the way, 2 weeks before that, and oh yeah, 2 weeks later, and a month later, and you jump around, people will lose you. Okay? What is he talking about? I can't understand. So make sure you follow an order, usually. Also, think about, besides your purpose, what parts are important to be in the story? Do you want to show people something about the culture of the place you were in your story? Do you want to show people something about yourself, your emotion? If you want to show something like that, say mostly things about how you felt, and maybe less about the environment or what things looked like. But if you want people to know something about the culture or the environment of that place, focus on that. Don't focus on how you feel. So think about what you want the audience to see, and then focus on those things. Okay, so I'm going to tell a story, and I'm going to tell a story about when I went to India. I have many stories about India because it's a crazy place. Okay, so I'm going to give a short story. This is not the beginning yet. I'm going to think about first the reason. The reason is I want to communicate how crazy and different India is. I also want to communicate to the audience the contrast that I felt in the story. This is very different than this. So that's an important point as well. I also want to share something about my feeling and a little bit about the culture and the feeling of danger. Okay? So these are the parts I want in it. So now I just begin. Have you ever had an experience that was interesting or amazing or memorable because it wasn't expected, because you didn't know it would happen, and because it did, because it was unexpected, you remember it well? It's a powerful memory. Well, basically, my entire trip to India was like that. I had a simple purpose, but all of the things that happened along the way, that seemed crazy, that seemed scary, were unexpected. And because they were unexpected, I have a much more powerful, strong memory of those things. So the reason I went was to study yoga. And I knew I needed to be in one city to study yoga. And the city's name is Rishikesh. It's a city in the north of India. And it's very famous for yoga. Yoga is a kind of exercise famous in India. So I arrived in Mumbai. Mumbai is a very big and dirty city with a lot of air pollution and a lot of poor people. And so when I arrived, I was really nervous and uncomfortable. So I quickly got out of that city. I took a train, and the train was uncomfortable too. And the more I went along, the more uncomfortable I felt. and I began to doubt myself. This place is not good for me. This place is strange and different than where I'm from. It's dirty. People are rude. And the thing that made it worse was when I arrived in the next city, not Rishikesh, I was supposed to meet my Indian friend, but he did not show up. I waited for him in that city for 3 days. I called him, I emailed him, I was desperate. Imagine, you're in a city that you've never been in before, in a country you've never been in before. You know nothing about this place, absolutely nothing, and there's one person you're supposed to meet who can help you because he's from here. But that person doesn't answer the phone, doesn't answer your emails, and is completely separate from you and completely ignores you. How desperate, how frustrated, how afraid do you think you would feel? So I was. Apart from feeling confused, apart from not liking this country very much, I was really confused and a little bit afraid. So finally one day I snapped. Suddenly I thought, all right, who cares? I need to be in Rishikesh to study yoga. I'm going to get out of here. Who cares about my friend? So I quickly took a tuk-tuk. A tuk-tuk is a kind of taxi with 3 wheels, and it's open, and it's really dangerous because there are no driving rules in India. They drive all over the road, and it's really scary because every time you get in one, you feel like you're this close to dying. Cars come right beside you, really, really fast. Anyway, so we got to the airport, I bought a ticket right away, and I flew to Delhi. Delhi is a city closer to the city I needed to be in, Rishikesh. So I thought, okay, I'm in Delhi. What should I do here? I need to go to Rishikesh, but I don't know how to go to Rishikesh. So I started walking around, just started walking around. Finally, I came to a bus station. Now, I had not slept the night before because I was so anxious, so nervous about my friend. So now I feel really tired, really frustrated, angry. It's hot. I'm sweaty. Everyone is rude to me. I don't know what's going on. So I get to a bus station and I ask the people at the bus station, do you have tickets to Rishikesh? He said, yes, we do. Yes, we do. So I said, oh, great, great. After I bought the ticket, I needed to wait a long time before the bus would leave. It's an 8-hour bus ride to this city from Delhi. So I started walking around Delhi and I got lost in Delhi. Many people were trying to ask me for money. And in Delhi, many people try to make you go into their friends' shops and force you to buy things. So I got lost. It started to get dark. I was hungry. I still hadn't slept. More and more angry. More and more sweaty. More and more confused. Finally, I talked to someone who spoke really good English. Luckily, they brought me back to the bus station, and by that time, the bus was almost about to arrive. So I was waiting at this very dirty bus station on this lonely road. The people at the bus station, all Indian guys, started to come up to me and ask me strange questions like, how much money do you make? And like, oh, where do you live? Oh, does your family know you're here? Oh, do you have an American passport? This kind of question. So I started to think, oh no, because they started getting closer, right? So I just lied. I said, okay, I have an American passport. I'm an American, but I don't have very much money. I did have some money, though, with me at that time. Really, really afraid. Finally, I realized what can make them feel uncomfortable about me. So I just started acting crazy. I started asking them weird questions, like, where does your mother live? Give me a cigarette. I started smoking cigarettes. I don't smoke, by the way. Just started asking them all weird questions, and they became uncomfortable about me. So they all moved away, these guys. Finally, the bus came, but it wasn't here. So we had to run to the bus, get on the bus. The bus is dirty. The bus is old. It doesn't work very well. We start going, we drive all night. I can't sleep all night. Many mosquitoes, bugs bite me. So very, very uncomfortable. My skin is very itchy. There's a man sleeping beside me on the bus, very, very loudly snoring. Snoring very loud. The worst thing is the roads. We're in the mountains. So the bus goes down the mountain roads and you think the bus is going to fly off the road and you're all going to die. But at the last moment, the bus turns. The roads are really, really scary. And actually, people often die in buses on those roads. So finally, without sleep for 2 days, I arrive in this city thinking, oh, good, finally. I get off of the bus. Off of the bus, I look around. Nothing. 2 buses and nothing. And I think, oh no, it's over. I arrive in the place where I want to be, and this place is nothing. There is no place. So I'm more and more afraid. Now it's still dark. It's very early morning. Very, very early, maybe 3:30 in the morning. Now, I had heard that this city was quiet, peaceful, beautiful, and you could study yoga and not hear any cars. So this is my dream, right? I can't wait to be in this peaceful place because India is crazy, noisy, dirty. So I get off the bus and I start walking around. I ask someone, where is the city? Nothing around us. Where is the city? Someone points over there. So I went around a road and looked out over the city. Sad. I was so angry. The city looked the same as any other city. Dirty, not clean. Where can you study yoga here? What is this place? Somebody lied to me. So I was expecting this peaceful place, but this place is just a common, noisy city. So I turned around and started walking again. And I didn't know where I was going. Thinking, I wasted so much time. I wasted so much money. My dream to come here is dead. And then I heard the sound of rushing water. And I knew there was a river here called the Ganga River. It's a famous river. And I thought, well, maybe it's the river. I didn't see the river before. So I started walking, following the sound. Finally, I came to a hill. I got to the top of the hill and I looked out. Below me was the river. A huge river, powerful, rushing, very, very strong, very cold. Across the river, I saw some buildings. No cars, just buildings. I saw some restaurants. I saw some hotels. I saw people walking around peacefully. And I thought, oh, it's there. That's the place where I wanted to be, across the river. I thought. I wasn't sure. So I started to feel a little better. A little bit. But how could I go across the river? I saw, not far away, a bridge, a small bridge. A bridge that floats on the water. It's called a pontoon bridge. So I walked over there and got on the bridge. It's a really scary bridge because the river is going really, really fast, pushing the bridge. The bridge is shaking on the water. You feel like soon the bridge will break and you will be drowned in the water. So slowly I went across the bridge. When I got to the other side, everything changed. Suddenly, I wasn't tired anymore. I wasn't angry anymore. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I wasn't frustrated. I wasn't confused. I suddenly just felt relaxed and happy. And the water in this part was very low, and part of the river was dry. So I went to that part with my bag and sat down to rest. I looked up. I could see stars still, but it was morning. And as more light came, I could see all around me mountains, huge mountains. Suddenly this all began to appear as the sun came up over the mountains, very pink, very beautiful. And then a little dog, just a little dog, I don't know which dog from where, and just sat down beside me. Just sat there. Me and the dog just sat there watching the sun come up. And then, after that, everything was okay. I didn't feel bad anymore. And my experience in that city learning yoga was perfect. It was amazing. So, the thing that I remember is that sudden change. When I crossed the river, suddenly everything was perfect. I felt great. Everything was beautiful. The mountains, the sun, the little dog. And when I went across the river, I found the city was quiet, was peaceful. There were many delicious places to eat. So, that is my most powerful memory from India.